Hello, drummers. So this will be the fifth or sixth video in your specific series. The previous four videos concentrated on rudiments. Now we're going to do a little bit of backtracking and talk about some fundamental things. We have lots of new drummers and lots of drummers that probably will need this as refreshing. So we're going to go over some things that are specific to you guys, mainly note values and rhythms. So let's get started. So, sounds and silences organized in time was our definition of music in a previous PowerPoint that you guys haven't viewed. So, notes are sounds, rests are silence. Our types of notes are whole notes, have 4 counts or take up 4 beats. In case of a drummer, if you see a whole note, you hit it and let it ring or let it go for 4 counts. Half notes have 2 counts. So in drummer terms, hit it and let it go for 2 counts. Quarter notes have 1 count. They are the basis for the beats and the basic pulse in music. Our eighth notes have half a count each. They are usually paired with another eighth note and written together as a group. In your rhythm games, these are your TTs. There are 2 eighth notes per count or per quarter note. And 16th notes for us are always written in a group. There's always 4 of them, and they always have 2 roofs on them. These are our ticas in our rhythm games. So every note has a correlating rest. They have the same count of silence that the notes do. So a whole rest will get you 4 counts of silence. Again, with a half rest gets 2. Quarter rest gets 1. And eighth rest gets half count of silence, etc. Now I'm going to show you pictures of these so you know what you're doing. So if you are trying to remember these, how do you remember them mathematically? Or what picture do you conjure up in your head to help you remember these? In my case, I picture a pie graph. You have a whole pie, a half a pie, a quarter of a pie, an eighth of a pie. So a quarter of a pie, it takes 4 of those to make a whole one. Or a half a pie, it takes 2 halves to make a whole. Same thing mathematically as it is if it was written down for notes and rests. So 3 parts. You have the note head, which is an oval, a stem placed either on either side of the note head, depending on where it is written on the staff, and a flag, which is always to the right of the stem. As you know, as notes get smaller, more flags are added. So an eighth note has 1 flag, 16th note has 2, 32nd has 3, 64th has 4. Those are notes you'll never see, but you know, I could say, how many flags does a 124th note have? You would do the math and say, oh, it must have 5. These flags are connected by beams, which is the way we write our eighth notes. Since our eighth notes have 1 flag, we tie those flags together and make them a beam, so it is easier for us as percussionists to read. And then there's different rules. We won't be necessarily concerned with where to put flags and stems. But so here's our note hierarchy. So here's our whole note. That's what it looks like. Our whole note gets 4 counts. You will see 1 of these per measure if we're in 4. Half note, if you divide a whole note in 2 half notes, notice they have the open thing, the open note, just like the whole note, except with the stem. If you divide each half note in half, you get quarter notes. So notice they have the filled in black dot. And divide each quarter note in half and you get eighth notes. These flags are usually tied together with a bar, and so you read them as TT, TT. Okay? We count these in numbers. It is 1 and, 2 and, 3 and, 4 and. So all these notes, all these lines have 4 counts, 4 counts, 2 half notes together is 4 counts, 4 quarter notes together is 4 counts, and on and on. So here's what the notes look like compared to the rests. So we have a whole note, it's our name, it gets 4 counts. A whole rest is the one that has a little square, it looks like a hole. If I was a little guy right here, I'd be falling in the hole, oh no. Here's your half note, can be written either like that or like that. Notice the placement of the stem. When it's going up, it's on this side, and when the stem's going down, it's on this side. Here's what a half rest looks like. It looks like a hat. Hat sounds like half. We have quarter notes, which are the filled in black dot ones, and this is what a quarter rest looks like, the little Z in our rhythm games. Okay. Now we get into 8th notes and 16th notes. We're going to ignore 32nd notes because for us, those don't exist. You won't ever see those. 8th notes, a single 8th note looks like this, and a single 8th rest looks like this. Notice, single 8th note has 1 flag, single 8th rest has 1 flag. 16th note has 2 flags, 16th rest has 2 flags. Normally you will see these grouped by a beam, but with some rhythmic groups, these are by themselves. So here's the same thing, quarter, 8th, 16th notes, but when you see them in a 4/4 measure, a measure with 4 counts in it, you'll see 1 of those. In one 4/4 measure, you'll see 2 of those. 1, 2, 3, 4. Quarter notes, 1, 2, 3, 4. 8th notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 16th notes, 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and. So this is what an individual 8th note looks like. This is what 2 tied together look like. An individual 16th note tied together. Notice 8th notes, there's 8 of those notes in a measure. 16th note, there's 16 of those notes in a measure. You can kind of hopefully put that together and see where they're coming up with that. If you need a moment to review this, go ahead and pause this video. So the last thing about note values is this. They have something that is called the augmentation dot. The dot at the end of a note adds half of the value of the note before it. So since this note gets 2 counts, that dot is worth 1 count. Together, those notes are worth 3 counts. You will see dotted quarter notes. You'll see some dotted 8th notes even. Okay. You'll recognize those in the rhythmic grouping when they come up, but for this video right now, it's a little too complicated to explain them until I see you guys in person. But just know all the values of those notes that I just showed you. So, and here's a couple extra questions. Dotted quarter note. So since the quarter note will get 1 count, the dot would be worth a half. Dotted quarter note will get 1.5. A dotted whole note would get 6. And a dotted 8th note would get, I'm not sure what the fraction is, but it would be an 8th note tied to a 16th note. Anyway. The last question, the slide says, so in this scenario right here, what note does this dot represent? So if you know this has 2 counts and this is worth 1 count, this dot would represent a quarter note. So you could actually write this as a half note tied to a quarter note. Very important when you're trying to figure out complex rhythms. Give me 1 second while I switch between my PowerPoints. So in the second one, also a very short little PowerPoint, but is on meter. And meter is essentially how we organize rhythm. So the definition of meter is a musical term describing repeating patterns of strong and weak beats. That may seem confusing, but when our pattern has 4 beats in it and the first one is strong, boom, 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 we can say, oh, the meter must be 4. repeating patterns of 4. This is notated through your time signature. The term meter and time signature I will use interchangeably. I'll mainly use time signature because that is what we are learning as drummers. And real world language, how do you remember what a meter is? In the real world, what example? Mine would be, oh, a meter is a unit of distance. Or a meter is a measure of how many centimeters are in a meter. So a meter is just a measurement, in our case, is a measurement of beats. So we can group a number of beats. So they are rhythm patterns with strong and weak beats. And these patterns are called rhythms. These beats are sometimes divided into segments. And one complete cycle of a segment is called a measure. And measures are marked by bar lines. So we're dividing our beat into segments. We're going to divide them into 4 beat segments. To make them a pattern, we're going to put a bar line right here. And in between those bar lines and measures. So here's our time signature. 4/4, we have 4 beats in a measure. Boop, we put a bar line there to mark off those 4 beats. So measures have the 4 counts. Bar lines divide those into groupings. You have lots of different time signatures. They tell you how many beats are in a measure. They are always written at the beginning of a piece of music, and they look like a fraction. So each number describes something. So if you were thinking about this mathematically, you have a numerator and a denominator. We're most concerned with the numerator. That will tell you how many beats are in your measure. The bottom number tells you what note gets 1 beat. So in this case, the 4 represents a quarter note. So there are 4. Come on, cursor, work. Where'd it go? Oh, there it is. There are 4 beats in the measure, and the quarter note gets the count. This bottom note becomes important in different key signatures, but most of the time, you're going to see a 4 right there. So you just have to concentrate on the top number. So a few examples of different time signatures. Oh, weird. So I'm pretty sure we've all seen 4/4, 2/4, there's 2 beats in a measure, 3/4, there's 3 beats in a measure. This right here is common time, which is just like that. Cut time is 4/4 played twice as fast. And then sometimes you're going to see an 8 as the bottom note. That means there are 6 eighth notes in a measure. That sounds confusing until you'd actually look at it and you'd be like, oh, I get it now. And hopefully I have an example of that in this presentation. I don't remember if I do or not. So again, you can tell what they mean just by the top number. And these C's are just different ways of marking common time or cut time. And there's some weird groupings and time signatures. Like in this case, you have 9 eighth notes or 7 eighth notes. These are some kind of crazy ones. A little Doctor Who reference for my Doctor Who nerds. So, but your most basics are 2, 3, and 4. So as musicians and drummers, I'll sometimes just say, oh, this song is in 4. Just means it has 4 beats in a measure. Or if we're playing a waltz, which is boom, bop, bop, boom, bop, bop, I would say, oh, it's in 3. So when I say stuff like that, we're just using shorthand when we're talking about your time signature. And sometimes music can have a basic pulse in a group of 3. The technical name for it's a compound meter, but basically there are 3 sounds in 1 beat. These are the types of music that have 8 at the bottom. So if I would play this in 4, I would play triplet, 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 triplet. In this case, we have 12 eighth notes grouped in 3s in 1 measure. This would be 1 E, 2 E, 3 E, 4. So technically, if we do a little bit of math, it's in 4, It's just each beat has 3 beats instead of just one. 1, 2, 3, 4. Example of this would be slow blues. Boom, 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 bop, boom, boom, boom. You can hear the beat. And so that's where your 8 would come in. So if it was 6/8, it only be these two. And it would actually be in 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So not much of a difference, just the way they're written. So in real life language, when we say it's a combination of strong beats and weak beats, you can tell just by my little shorthand below what the time signature of this music is. So we look at this, there's our strong beat and our weak beats. We've organized them into patterns. So this key time signature would be 4/4. So how about this one? You see your pattern, and you say, oh, it's in 3/4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Organization of strong and weak beats. How about this one? If you said 2/4, you would be correct. And this one, if you said 5/4, you're correct. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's a toughie. So you see there's 9 beats. Divided up into 9 beats, but they're in groups of 3. So you wouldn't have a 4 as a bottom number, you would have an 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Da, 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 da. So, and then some tempo things that you won't really need to know because I will be in front of you telling what your tempo is, but tempo is the speed of the beat. It gives the illusion of movement. They are usually in Italian. And a lot of them are associated with a specific metronome marking, meaning a number of beats per second, such as marches. Marches are almost always associated with 120 beats a minute. And you might have different tempos. All tempos are relative. What might be fast to you might not be fast to someone else. And some basic tempo markings. There's some slow ones and medium to fast. I will tell you what these are when I conduct you, but you can tell some of the Italian. Moderato is moderate. Andante, walking speed. Presto or vivace, those are fast. So when you see a piece of music with a presto marking, you know you got a cruise. And some other tempo things. Accelerando, you can tell just by the word. Accelerate, which means increase your speed gradually. The retard is the decrease speed gradually. And some tempo markings are style indications. So if we see maestoso as a tempo marking, it means majestic. So you describe this tempo as like the entry of a king, or how fast you would walk during graduation, during pomp and circumstance. Giocoso means jokingly and playful. So you would describe that as a little quicker, nice and light and quick. And then one last little thing, using these tempos can encourage, tease, confuse the beat response in listeners. So basically that means if someone's tapping along to it, change the tempo. Oh, they're a little confused. What's going on? You can change the feel of music just by increasing and decreasing the tempo. At this time, to get credit for this unit, I would like you to comment your name and what your favorite song is. So name and favorite song in the comments to get credit for watching this video. Drummers, I hope you're well. For some of you, I know that was kind of simple. For some of you, maybe I cruised through that very fast, but I just kind of wanted to give you an overview. So when I see you again and come back, some of the drummers that know all this stuff have a refresher, and some of the drummers that are maybe just starting out or haven't had a lot of experience with, snare drum and things like that, get a little head up and can practice. So when I come back and see you, you will be much improved. As always, I hope you guys are doing great, and I will see you soon. Bye bye.